Jeff Koinange live on the rooftop of the Intercontinental Hotel. Well, Come Baby Come has gone. And now, former Member of Parliament for Lagdera, former Deputy Speaker of the last Parliament, Faarah Maalim, to tell us about the situation now in this Parliament and also another very important story. Mheshimiwa, good to see you.
Good to see you, yeah.
The other important story, and I want to tackle that right away, is the fact that the UNHCR, the Kenya government, signed a deal to repatriate about 1 million Somali refugees. Yeah. You were MP of that area, Lagdera,
yeah,
home of biggest refugee camp on the planet.
Yeah.
Is that going to be physically possible?
Jeff, it's always good for refugees to go back to their own home country. I mean, there's no question about that. When you're a refugee, you are in such a situation that it cannot be envied in any way. They live in that kind of a squalor. They are probably 560,000 or something like that in the refugee camps in the Dadaab. The children get some education, but it's only now very marginally improving. There are thousands upon thousands of children who cannot access education. The food itself, since the Syrian problems and other problems in the world, the African refugees seems to have taken kind of a second priority. So they don't get that kind of a balanced food like they used to get before. I mean, the ration they get is also. So when you look at all those things, it's fair for them to go back. But the big question is, back to where? The international force, or rather the African force that is in Somalia, has the capacity to stabilize Somalia, to chase away the remnants of Al-Shabaab, and to secure the country in its entirety. They also have the capacity to empower the Somali army itself in a fashion in which this menace can be eliminated. But I don't think those kind of efforts have been done. We went all the way as KDF to Mogadishu, to Kismayu, and we've left Al-Shabaab to hang around here. I mean, we go in from Mandera, Al-Shabaab is there. All the way along the river belt. The natural place to take these people to now is to take back to some kind of a farming communities. But the entire river belt is in the hands of Al-Shabaab. Bardere, Buale, Saku, all the way to Jilib and Jamama. So, and
are they being forced back like lambs to a slaughter? I mean, what kind of life?
No. You see, taking the refugees back is, in this state we are in right now, is not feasible. It's not possible. You can't take them back. And what does it do by putting up an agreement with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and the Somali government, which has no capacity, basically to secure the safety of these refugees? Because if it had capacity, it would have gotten rid of Al-Shabaab from the entire Somali territory way back.
What do you think is the motivation behind that?
Well, I think we're just trying to play a bit of politics with this refugee, and in a sense, we're beginning to play a little bit of politics, international politics. And I don't think it's feasible. Actually, let me tell you, right now, the way things are, it actually looks a little bit more humane than what we intended to do under the last government. Just before we went for elections, the Kenya government wanted to take all the refugees, particularly the registered aliens who are in the major urban settings, and put them in some kind of a concentration camp in a stadium in Thika. And see how you can move them from there, and literally call the Ministry of Special Programs to make preparations, probably to feed them for a day or two before you take them back to across the border.
And let's also face it, if Al-Shabaab wants to make its way back here.
No, but you see, Al-Shabaab itself is a criminal gang. Al-Shabaab is different from the Somali society.
But there are elements within there. We know in the camp in Dadaab, some of these terrorists from Westgate, they lived in that camp.
These terrorists, these people, the refugees we have here, ran away from Al-Shabaab. You see what I mean? They took off from Al-Shabaab. That's why they're here with us as refugees. That's why they're able to live in the kind of lives they're living in the refugee camps.
Yeah, but some of them...
we have said this from the beginning. It's very easy for people to come in and hide themselves. You see what I mean? It's very easy. A lot needs to be done before that. But the easiest thing is KDF has now the capacity to clean up these places. Our forces started chasing them from Mandera, from Bulahawa and a place called Burduba. They were running. They were literally running and helter-skelter. And we just stopped. It's not that we can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
The regional force which is in there, the continental force which is in there, has the capacity to clean Al-Shabaab out of Somalia in the shortest possible time.
But KDF has a bad reputation right now.
Well, that reputation, as far as Somalia is concerned, it's been so far so good. We've never had any excesses here. But as far as the Westgate is concerned, yes, I can understand that. Yes.
And that's the stuff we saw at Westgate.
Yes.
We don't even know what's going on deep in Somalia.
Up until now, we have not had, we haven't heard of any excesses up until now. But clearly, if it stays for too long, if we kind of want to postpone our exit from Somalia, if we want to stay there for a very long time to come, if we don't want to end the problem because we want to look for a justification to stay in there, we have, we can be said to have some ulterior motives, then definitely other issues are going to crop up.
Absolutely.
But right now we have the goodwill, we have the support of the Somali people. And nobody wants Al-Shabaab. Somali people, wherever they are, the Somalians and the Somali tribe, because I'm a Kenyan, I'm not a Somalian, I'm Somali by tribe. Any Somali all over the world is disgusted and would really, and they're very happy with what Kenyan Defense Force have done so far. But the big question is, why are we not finishing the job? We have the capacity, we have the resources, we have the assets, we have the goodwill of the Somali people. There are these forces that have been fighting along with us. We're holding them back. You see what I mean? All we need to do in certain areas is just to empower them, give them the logistics, give them the bullets and the arm. They will finish the job themselves. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. And that also seems to be the case with the AMISOM also, because AMISOM is just in Mogadishu and around Mogadishu. Why can't AMISOM go to all the other places? They've already flashed the Al-Shabaab out of Mogadishu. Why can't AMISOM literally move out and empower the Somali National Army and give the resources and the assets that are needed by the Somali National Army?
If AMISOM, I've heard this story, if AMISOM was to withdraw its forces altogether from Somalia, withdraw from Mogadishu, and then Kenyan forces from Kismayo, withdraw them all together in support of the president and his case at the ICC. What do you think would happen?
In support of who?
The president and his ICC case.
Our president?
Yes.
And how?
I've heard that story. African Union withdraws their forces from Somalia.
What does that mean? You're telling the international community
sort yourselves out.
But that is Africa. That is Somalia. That is our own continent.
But the mandate, the people paying that fee for AMISOM to be there.
Yes. Is the international community.
Yes.
Precisely. So then what do? You say that the Western folks and the Americans do this for us. If you can't do this for us, we're going to allow our African brothers and sisters here to. I mean, this is the British old way in which the so-called African dictators and despots used to do in the past. That we're going to destroy our own people unless you lay off or something like that. I don't think our government will do that. I don't think our president and our deputy president will be so foolish. And the entire African heads of states who are meeting in Al-Shabaab. I know and I can see the efforts to try and rally around the president and the deputy president on this ICC case, which frankly, to be very honest to you, in my own opinion, honest opinion, I don't think they're doing any good to the two guys. Because these two guys, from all that is now coming out and emanating, it's unlikely that they're going to be convicted. The threshold for conviction is high.
But at the same time, it doesn't look like the United Nations Security Council is going to reach the vote they want to get that deferral.
I don't think so.
Deferral.
Deferral possible. Referral, no. Deferral to defer to another date. Well, I tend to think maybe some countries like the French will take a hard position and probably veto it. I don't know. And with the kind of government that's there in France right now, which is leftist, leaning and basically on human rights and all these things, and we've got a history in here, it's possible. But I'm not sure if it can be such a tough and difficult thing for deferral. Referral, in my opinion, is out of question. I don't think.
But you think that the African leaders are doing Kenya a disservice?
Serious disservice. Serious, outright, open disservice. And we must see through that bluff. To be very honest with you, and that flattering itself.
You think they have an agenda?
Well, I would not be surprised. The adversarial nature of the governments and countries that are even neighbors, by the way. You remember sometimes ourselves in the early 90s and the 80s, we used to brag ourselves as being an island of peace in the midst of turmoil. And we always had a role in every country. I mean, one way or the other, regardless of how much the quantum was of our involvements in some of that instability, but the involvement was always there.
Yeah.
You get my point?
Absolutely.
We were always there. We participated in the shipment of arms into the Sudan conflict, using it as a conduit. We've had the liberation movements in Uganda, those early days, one way or the other, also going back and forth to our country. We've had it. I mean, it's not one or two or three. I mean, it's all over. So to see now the shoe on our, or rather we are having a problem with the international community and the countries in the neighborhood, praying to it that we become a pariah state, one way or the other, for them now to begin to benefit from it and to say, hey, the model of stability, the model of or the hub of communication and model of the comparative development within the Eastern African setting, Kenya now is, look at the kind of problems it's in, and for them to feel that they can cash on that, yes, that you can't take that far away from that.
Absolutely,
it's quite possible.
And we don't see this.
In any case, why would they take such an enormous interest? Enormous interest. Look at the countries in the neighborhood, the way they talk about the war on ICC in a much more passionate way than we're doing it ourselves. You think there's suddenly so much love for us and our head of state and his deputy that they really would want to stand by them to the end? No. But I think it's for a number of reasons I'd be suspicious of that. And the reality of the matter is that with all the imperfections we've had, we still have a human rights record that essentially is the envy of every country in the region. We still have a democracy that's been uninterrupted with all its own imperfections, as I said from the beginning. That still is better than any other country in the region. We have a vibrant media. There's a lot of things that have gone right for us. We have a new constitution. We have a parliament that is trying its best.
There's a lot to be jealous about.
There's a lot to be jealous about in all the countries in the neighborhood. So I think it's time we sat back and reflected and meditated and looked inwards.
Yeah. One thing I know you're not jealous about is your colleagues in this 11th Parliament.
Why?
Because it looks like they've really gone rogue for the most part. Looks like this would never have happened with you and Marende in those seats.
Look, I can tell you for sure, both the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Muturi and Laboso. Laboso was there in the Speaker's panel. So she's pretty much, in my opinion, up to the task in lots of ways. And Muturi was somebody who has been in Parliament quite a long time, I think 2 terms, and he is a lawyer, clearly. There's a whole lot of a new dynamic in this current Parliament. In the last Parliament, we were only 222, I think, or something like that.
Now they're 340, almost 350.
It's about 350 now, so it's massive. And so you really can't fault them that enormously.
What, they're trying to have their voices heard?
In any case, let me tell you one thing. The democracy itself and that assertion of the legislative body itself, the assertion of the judiciary, the assertion of the executive, and this pull and push, basically trying to shift the boundaries between each one of them, is trying to have a bigger stake in the other. I mean, it's a normal thing. I think it's an expected kind of a growing problems for any democracy like ours. You don't expect our democracy to run, hit the ground running the way the American or the Western countries
are. When they pass draconian bills like the media
but
one.
I'm coming to you. I mean, the media one, I don't know, frankly, and I wouldn't want to see really. Media, in my opinion, needs to get more responsible than it's been in the past.
That we've agreed.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
Freedom of the press and the freedom of the media in this country must be protected also. The way to strike a balance, in my opinion, we must find a middle ground. You see what I mean? Must find a middle ground. The other thing is that to say that an industry is going to self-regulate itself, I have a problem with that. so much like Parliament self-regulating itself and deciding how much is enough in terms of remunerations and allowance.
Which is what it does.
Which in my opinion is a problem.
Decides its own salary, decides to give itself a raise.
In my opinion, it has no problem in deciding. It's accepted. You can decide it, but ordinarily in other jurisdictions, in developed democracies, the history and the tradition has been that it's going to take effect from the next parliament. You see what I mean? In which case you would not be quite sure whether you're going to be in that parliament or not. So consequently, you will do what is fair. But if you're told you will enjoy the benefits immediately and how much is enough for you, well, people will say everything is enough for me.
Would you want to be a part of this parliament?
Now, the other bit of it is that in as far as the committees, I can see there's quite a bit of a roguish attitude on the part of the committees. That's also a teething problem. Let me be honest with you. You see, another problem we have in this country, we don't have that institutional memory of the House, because anytime we get an election, 80% of the former members of Parliament go home. You get my point? You get new people. It takes time to learn these things. You get new people, and this is the problem with Kenyans. They keep on electing new people every time, so it's expected. For example, for a parliamentary committee to summon the head of the judiciary, I think is not the right thing.
Over the top.
Pretty much over the top, because then what's going to stop them next time from also summoning the head of state and saying that we are the legislature, they're the three arms of government, and we are the longer arm, by the way. The legislature is the longer arm. It gets appreciated even in our constitution before the executive, as opposed to the way it was in the past in the previous constitution. But then that takes away, or rather is on the fringes of trying to usurp the powers of the judiciary, which essentially interferes with that sanctified doctrine of the separation of power. So in a sense, the way I see it myself is that I think that was reaching beyond what is legitimately within their own mandate. But again, for them to question some of these things, if there is a genuine realization on the part of a parliamentary committee that public resources might have been misused, it's fair for them, and then we'll now begin to find out and navigate ourselves through this and find out which is the proper institution to deal with that.
I'd love to talk more about this, and you have to come back because I owe you more time, but for now